If you are here watching this video, it means you have arrived at a turning point, a silent and almost unbearable moment when something deep inside you begins to shout, and you can no longer pretend that you don't hear it. You may not have the words to name it, but you know it's there. It's the sense that you can't keep living in the same way. Deep inside, it feels like a crack has opened, an invisible rupture that divides who you really are from the role you have been acting out for years. And this is not a coincidence. It is an inevitability. At some point in every person's journey, the inner collapse arrives. Some people turn away from it, numbing themselves with routines, with distractions, with busyness. Others freeze, paralyzed by the fear of change. But for a few, for people like you, this collapse becomes something more. It becomes a calling, a voice that cannot be silenced, a force pushing you toward a different life. Carl Gustav Jung, one of the greatest thinkers in psychology, described this exact moment as the call to individuation. Individuation is not just a clinical term. It is the soul's refusal to keep living behind masks. Masks built to please, to survive, to fit in, to meet expectations. That's why this video is not random content you stumbled upon. Think of it as a mirror, a symbolic reflection showing up precisely at the moment when your conscious mind has no answers left, but your unconscious already knows. It is time to act. This is when what people call a normal life begins to reveal its true face. Beneath the routines, beneath the social smiles, beneath the carefully curated appearances, you start to see a machine, an automated existence built from other people's expectations, outdated social roles, and promises that were never fulfilled. Maybe you are in a relationship that drains you little by little until you can barely remember who you were before. Or maybe you are trapped in a job that pays the bills but slowly strangles your spirit, killing it one workday at a time. Or maybe your prison is more subtle. The fear of letting your parents down, the constant need for approval from people who never really understood you, the suffocating weight of walking a path that was mapped out for you, not by you. Jung warned that the greatest danger of modern life is not chaos. It is the unconscious adaptation to an inauthentic life. The real tragedy is to live a life that isn't yours and to never even notice. This is why the call always arrives through suffering. The psyche whispers first, through dreams, through small crises, through waves of tiredness, and when you ignore it, it shouts. What once was only mild discomfort becomes despair. What once was uncertainty becomes heavy anxiety. What once was fatigue becomes full collapse. And when that collapse hits, something curious begins to happen. You start noticing signs. A book appears at the right time. A conversation cuts deeper than expected. A video like this one finds you at the exact moment when you thought of giving up. Is it magic? Number. It is your soul searching, magnetizing the exact keys you need to escape your inner prison. The unconscious, as Jung explained, has its own symbolic intelligence. It knows how to guide you when you finally grow quiet enough to listen. That's why this video is not just entertainment. You might have scrolled past hundreds of other videos before stopping here, but your unconscious recognized this one as necessary. This is not a quick fix. It is not a self-help formula. It is an invitation, a mirror held up to your face, a challenge to stop running and confront what you've been avoiding. The fear, the guilt, the boredom, the shame, the anger. All those feelings you carry are not proof that you're weak or broken. They are proof that your current way of life has reached its end. The structure has collapsed, and that collapse is necessary. You are not broken. You are being called to be born again. Most people, sadly, never answer this call. They live like programmed machines. Wake up, go to work, obey, produce, distract themselves, and repeat. They call this normal. But let's be clear, normal only means common, and common is not the same as healthy. You were taught from early childhood to seek stability, to follow rules, to be grateful, to avoid drawing too much attention. The message was constant. Don't question, don't disrupt, don't resist. Just be good. But good for whom? Jung wrote that the greatest threat to the individual in modern society is massification, the slow death of individuality, where the person becomes just a number, a replaceable part of a machine that values conformity above authenticity. So when you feel suffocated by routine, when your days blur together, that is not weakness. That's a signal. That is your psyche screaming, "This is not who you are." You may have done everything society told you to do. You studied, you got the job, you found the partner, you posted the smiling photos, and yet you feel empty, like an observer of your own life. That emptiness is not illness. It is consciousness knocking on the door. It is your soul pushing against the mask you built. That mask once kept you safe, but now it has become a prison. The so-called normal life that was sold to you is a sophisticated trap. It offers small doses of pleasure, social approval, a steady paycheck, family acceptance, in exchange for your truth, your inner voice, your freedom. And as time passes, you forget who you really are. Jung warned us, adapting to society is necessary, but when adaptation demands a sacrifice of the self, it becomes dangerous. And this is exactly what millions of people live today. Outwardly, they appear fine. Inside, they are anesthetized, spiritually numb, disconnected from themselves. The system rewards their obedience with distractions. Endless streaming shows, endless delivery meals, endless scrolling, likes, hearts, empty validation. Also that they never ask the question, am I truly living or am I just existing? And no distraction can silence a soul in crisis. The moment you begin to ask deeper questions, society will try to convince you that the problem is you, that you're just stressed, that you just need a break, that you should go on vacation, read a motivational book, meditate for 10 minutes. But deep inside, you know the truth. This is not simple stress. This is despair. You feel that something is profoundly wrong with your life, not because you are failing, but because you are awake enough to see that the structure itself is failing. False normality is a disguise for slow death of the soul. It is the life built only on duties, stripped of meaning. Jung once wrote that the unlived life is a disease that can kill you. And he was right. Look around. People are dying slowly every day, not physically but spiritually, trapped inside stories that were never their own. But there is a way out. The way begins with deconstruction, tearing apart the farce you've been taught to accept. The next step is not to go back to sleep. It is to embrace the discomfort, to understand that the unease, the emptiness, the pain are not signs of failure, but signs of transformation. They are the first cracks of light breaking through. You are not broken. You are ready. Our culture interprets suffering as failure. If you're sad, you must be weak. If you're anxious, you must be sick. If you don't fit in, there must be something wrong with you. But this is a dangerous lie. Suffering is not a defect. It is a message. What you call crisis, collapse, or emptiness, Jung would call the beginning of awakening. The despair, the fatigue, the feeling of not belonging, these are not accidents. They are signs. They are the unconscious telling you, you are ready. Ready to remove the persona, the mask, the role you've been wearing. Ready to face your shadow. Ready to meet yourself. You may believe you are falling apart, but it is not you that's collapsing. It is the false character, the shell that once protected you but now suffocates you. Your suffering is not weakness, it is strength. Only those with strong souls can face the emptiness without anesthesia. Only those who have carried lies can carry the truth. Jung taught that suffering is not an obstacle, but a mechanism. When the ego resists change, the unconscious produces symptoms: anxiety, insomnia, apathy, rage. These symptoms are not problems blocking the path. They are the path itself. They force you to stop, to question, to listen. They break the old so that the new can live. But here's the problem. Society will keep trying to seduce you back to normal. It will offer quick fixes, easy answers, ready-made paths. But you don't need to go back. You need to go through. Your pain is not a wall, it is a door, a symbolic portal. If you resist it, you stay trapped in chronic suffering. If you listen, you begin initiation. And initiation is never comfortable. It is not pretty, it is not fast, but it is real, and it is necessary. The process of individuation begins when you are tired of being half alive. When you realize you can't live only on the surface anymore. When you accept that you must integrate the hidden, your traumas, your denied emotions, your impulses. Integration is not luxury, it is survival. You are not broken. You are on a journey into the uncharted land of your own soul. Every tear, every silence, every moment of confusion, they are all part of the trail. Pain is trying to wake you up. And when you finally begin to listen, something inevitable happens. Symbols, messages, and synchronicities appear. That random song that moves you, that coincidental dream that keeps returning, that accidental video you are watching now. Jung called this synchronicity, the meaningful coincidence that your mind cannot explain, but your soul instantly recognizes. This is not an accident. This is not random. This is your unconscious guiding you. It doesn't argue. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It points. It touches. And that is why you are here. This is where the path gets harder and also where it becomes most meaningful. Because every real transformation requires a crossing. And every crossing demands a leap. Not a leap you take with your body, but a leap of the soul. A psychic leap. It's the moment when you must abandon the narrative that once felt safe, even if it was miserable, and walk toward a version of yourself that you don't yet know. This is the critical point of the individuation process Jung described. And it is also the place where most people retreat. Because the leap is terrifying. It means letting go of everything familiar. It means stepping away from the maps, from the instructions, from the comfort of being told who you are. It means saying goodbye to the polished persona you spent years building, the persona that got you this far, but now has turned into a cage. It means saying no to everything that looks correct on the outside so you can finally say yes to the truth inside. Jung compared this moment to meeting the dragon, the inner archetype of fear. The dragon is not a creature of fantasy. It is the living embodiment of all the fears, all the doubts, all the resistances that rise up at the threshold of change. And the dragon has many voices. It will tell you that you are crazy, that this is not the right time, that you will lose everything you have built, that you will disappoint everyone you love, that you will regret it. The dragon will show you endless scenarios of failure. It will convince you that your safest option is to stay exactly where you are. Because the dragon knows that if you leap, it dies. And the ego fears this symbolic death more than any pain. But here's the secret. Fear is not a warning to step back. Fear is proof that you are standing exactly where you need to be. Fear marks the threshold. Fear is the guardian of portals. Every time you feel dread about changing, breaking free, or taking a risk, it is because you are brushing against something sacred, your true self. On the other side of fear is life, real life, not survival, not appearances, not just keeping up with everyone else, but actual presence, authenticity, meaning. And here is what you need to hear. You will never feel 100% ready. Nobody ever does. You don't need to. You only need to be tired enough of pretending, tired enough of wearing the mask, brave enough to say, I don't know what comes next, but I cannot keep living like this. That is enough. That is the breaking point. There are only two kinds of people, those who keep dragging themselves through lives that quietly kill them, and those who dare to leap. And if you have listened this far, you are already closer to the second group. But here comes another truth, one of the hardest to accept. No one is coming to save you. Not your partner, not your parents, not your friends. Not a guru, not a book, not a video. No one outside of you is going to climb into your life and fix it for you. Because individuation, the process of becoming yourself, cannot be lived by proxy. No one can walk it for you. It is an inner path, and every single step must be your own. This is radical responsibility. It doesn't mean you are to blame for everything that happened to you, but it does mean that from this moment on, you are responsible for what you choose to do with it. It means that even if the pain was caused by others, the healing depends on you. The system we live in profits from passivity. It wants you dependent. It wants you obedient. It wants you waiting. Waiting for permission, waiting for solutions, waiting for saviors. It wants you consuming instead of creating, following instead of questioning. But the waiting has gone on long enough. There will be no clear sign, no official green light, no perfect moment. The only sign you need is already here. The voice inside you that keeps insisting, the discomfort that keeps pushing, the growing restlessness that torments you whenever you try to numb it. That voice is not going away. It is saying, either you change or you die slowly in silence. You already carry the resources you need, but as long as you outsource your freedom, you will remain trapped. As long as you keep waiting for someone else to tell you that it's okay to quit, to leave, to start over, you will continue to live other people's lives, not your own. The ego will say it's too dangerous. You're not ready. You're not capable. But remember, the ego is designed for survival, not for truth. The soul wants to live, not just to survive. And taking responsibility for your own life, that is the beginning of real maturity. It's the moment you stop waiting for applause, for rescue, for guarantees. It's the moment you decide to build your life in silence, step by step with dignity. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it's frightening. Yes, you will stumble, but it's the only way to stop dying in slow motion. So ask yourself honestly, what is still holding you back? Is it the fear of failing, the fear of being judged, the fear of losing comfort, or is it the illusion that someone else will come and carry you across? There is an invisible line in every life. On one side is the existence you were given. On the other side is the life you came here to live. That line is not made of external obstacles. It's not money. It's not education. It's not your boss or your parents. That line is fear, fear of disappointing, fear of changing, fear of walking away from the familiar cave of normality into the wilderness of the unknown. But the truth is, the life you long for begins exactly on the other side of that fear, and the only way across is through. Jung said that fear is not your enemy. Fear is a guardian of thresholds. It shows up every time you are about to step into a deeper truth. Every time you consider breaking free, every time you prepare to face yourself honestly, fear rises. It's not there to destroy you. It's there to test your resolve. The persona you built, the polite, functional, smiling version of yourself, was useful once. It kept you safe, but now it is a polished prison. And the key is hidden in the very place you least want to look, inside the fear, the pain you feel, the restlessness you avoid, the emptiness you try to cover with work, with entertainment, with distractions. All of it is the voice of your soul saying, it's time. Time to move toward the life that is truly yours. And you know it. You felt it all along. That's why you're still here listening. Because even without being able to explain it rationally, something in you recognizes that these words are not general advice. They are meant for you. The question is not, are you ready? The question is, will you choose to stay where you are, or will you cross the line into your real life? Because no savior is coming. There will be no better sign. There will be no instruction manual. There is only this choice right here, right now. And maybe your first step is small. Writing in the comments, I choose to cross. That may seem symbolic, even trivial, but naming is powerful. Declaring it out loud or writing it down is the first crack in the prison walls. This is where true freedom begins. And freedom is not given, it is claimed. Freedom is never comfortable at the beginning. Freedom strips away illusions. It leaves you exposed. It demands responsibility. And for many people, that raw responsibility feels heavier than the chains they carried before. That's why so many return to the cage, because at least the cage feels familiar. But if you've come this far, it means you're already stronger than you think. The question that arises now is simple. What waits for you on the other side of fear? What exists beyond the leap? Jung's answer was clear. On the other side is real life, not the half-life of conformity, not the numbing existence of appearances. Real life, the kind that cannot be borrowed, bought, or inherited, the kind you must carve with your own hands. This life is not free of pain. Pain does not vanish when you awaken. In fact, at first, it often grows louder because you are no longer hiding from it. But this pain takes on a different meaning. It stops being a meaningless weight and becomes a compass. It begins to guide you instead of crush you. Think about it this way. When you avoid pain, it chases you. When you face pain, it transforms you. The energy you once used to suppress it becomes the fuel that drives you into a new chapter of existence. And that is why individuation, the process Jung described, feels like both a death and a birth. Something in you has to die. The old mask, the false role, the borrowed identity. And yes, it hurts to let it go. It feels like losing yourself. But what is really dying is not you. It is the character you created to survive. What is being born is the self you abandoned long ago, the self you buried under duty, expectations, and fear. That is the self you are here to reclaim. This is not an easy path. No one should pretend otherwise. It requires honesty that will sometimes feel unbearable. It requires sitting in silence when every part of you wants distraction. It requires grieving the life you never lived and the years you cannot get back. But step by step, this path reveals something extraordinary. The possibility of living without masks, the possibility of being whole. Imagine what it would be like to live without constantly editing yourself, to no longer be defined by what pleases your parents, your boss, your partner, or society at large. Imagine choosing from authenticity instead of fear. At first, this sounds impossible. We are so conditioned to seek approval that we don't even notice how much of our lives are spent in performance. But as you walk the path, you begin to see it clearly. You start to notice how often you laugh when you don't want to, agree when you don't believe, say yes when every part of you is screaming no. And then you begin to reclaim your voice. The reclaiming is gradual. It starts with small steps. Setting a boundary, saying no, allowing yourself to rest instead of perform, allowing yourself to feel what you really feel instead of what you're supposed to feel. These steps may look small on the outside, but on the inside, they are revolutionary. Every time you choose authenticity over performance, the mask weakens, the prison cracks, the self awakens. And the more you awaken, the more synchronicities you notice. People enter your life who reflect your truth instead of your mask. Opportunities appear that align with your inner calling instead of your old persona. Life begins to feel less like a prison sentence and more like a conversation with something deeper, something alive inside you. Jung wrote that, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. That is what awakening really means. It means seeing how much of your fate was only unconscious repetition. And it means choosing differently. But choosing differently is not a one-time act. It is a practice. Every day you are faced with choices. Conform or create, hide or reveal, sleep or awaken, and each choice shapes the path. That is why fear keeps showing up. Fear doesn't vanish once you leap. It accompanies every stage. Every time you reach a new threshold, fear reappears. But now you know, fear is not the enemy. Fear is the guardian. And the more you walk through it, the more alive you become. So here you are, standing at another threshold. You've heard the call. You've recognized the suffering not as a defect, but as a signal. You've seen the mask for what it is, a prison. You've felt the dragon's whispers of fear. You've realized that no one is coming to save you. You've glimpsed what lies beyond, the possibility of real life. The only question left is, will you cross? Crossing doesn't mean having everything figured out. Crossing doesn't mean never feeling fear again. Crossing simply means choosing not to stay stuck. It means saying yes to the unknown, yes to the inner voice, yes to the possibility of becoming who you really are. And that choice cannot be postponed forever, because postponing is also a choice. Every day you wait is a day you remain in the cage. Every day you say not yet is a day the mask tightens. So why not now? Write it, speak it, declare it. I choose to cross. Make it real, not for the algorithm, not for me, but for you. Because the moment you name it, you begin to live it. And when you do, something powerful happens. The unconscious, which until now has been speaking in whispers, begins to support you with strength. Symbols align, paths open, life begins to meet you halfway. Not because the world outside magically changed, but because you change the position from which you meet it. You stop being a victim of life. You start being a participant in it. That doesn't mean everything becomes easy. Struggle will still come. Loss will still come. But now you carry them differently. They no longer define you. They refine you. They become part of your wholeness instead of reasons to hide. And that is what individuation is about. Not perfection, not a blissful state where pain disappears. Individuation is about wholeness, about living in alignment with the truth of who you are, shadows and all. About walking your own path, even if it's lonely, even if it's messy, even if it scares you. This is the work of a lifetime, but it begins here, with this choice. So let me ask you directly, will you continue dying in slow motion, or will you leap into the unknown and finally live? You already know the answer. That's why you're still here. And if you are ready to take the next step, don't stop now. This is just the beginning. The next part of this journey is waiting for you. In the next video, in the next message, in the next synchronicity that shows up in your life. You've already begun. Don't turn back.